an economic climate like this, if we are spending our money on travel, it needs to feel special.
Watch my soul speak.
That's the quote from Toronto Sun's Bryn Lackey. Is it time to ban Airbnbs? Bringing that stock on the rental market would have an immediate impact on the housing shortage. I know I've covered a lot of stuff about Airbnbs, and I'm probably biased in a lot of ways because I have an Airbnb. But here's my counterpoints to this article. I want to go through it. I'm not going to go through line by line, but I'm going to try and cover the gist of the article. Bringing that stock onto the rental market would have an immediate impact on the housing shortage. We're in a housing crisis. We have no shortage of demand with immigration at historical highs. Okay, we all agree on that. So surely you're going to be talking about things that
this angle is brought to you by Sure.
the government is responsible for, right? Inventory far below where it needs to be. I think every home builder out there would agree with you that there's a supply issue and too much red tape. The government has targeted a bunch of small things with measures that are really not making any difference, and yet you think the result would be going after another small thing. Beginning of the article, she states, here we are with some estimates showing 12,000 investment properties on short-term rental platforms. And she'd be surprised if it wasn't considerably higher. Well, if you're writing an article and you're a journalist, why not do that research and actually find out that number? But what I can tell you is that in Calgary, I had someone look up the data with AirDNA, and it said on Airbnb and Verbo, there are 4,227 rentals in Calgary. According to the city of Calgary, there are 531,000 dwellings in the city. Of that, 4,227 are listed actively on Airbnb. So that represents less than 1% of dwellings being used on Airbnb. That's the person this article is going after. Of that 1%, how many of them are actual people that are using it just strictly as an Airbnb, as a business, which is what it is. It is a business. And what percentage of those people are doing it when they're out of town, they're using it, or when Stampede comes around, they list their property and then they go out of town. When COVID first hit, short-term rentals were banned and immediately saw inventory flood the market. Maybe people also just wanted to get out of condos. Maybe people didn't want to get stuck in small apartments and be there doing nothing with nowhere to go, with no backyards. Maybe tourism dried up. Maybe students went back. Basically, what she's trying to do is leverage her point. And again, we're talking about in Calgary here, 1%, less than 1% of properties were banned from Airbnb, less than 1%, that the market's going to be adjusted by that. But will we miss Airbnb? Opinion parts now, they're not cheap. Response to this. They're not cheaper. Okay, they're not cheaper. That's her opinion. And although it was once a way for people to offer a unique and affordable ways for family and friends to hit the road together, it now somehow is not. Fees are wild, through the roof. Capping off a few nights, you could have a $350 cleaning fee. Customer service is terrible. And here's the thing. It's so easy for me to say this. How many people have had a bad experience at a hotel? Everybody. Everybody has. Staying in an apartment with a chirping smoke detector and an unresponsive host does not make a vacation. Man, that sounds like you're picking some bad places to stay. I don't know, maybe look into the places you're staying better. Maybe look for hosts that are super hosts, that are well reviewed, that don't have comments like that. And don't forget, guys, if you're spending your money on travel, it had better feel special.
Oh, Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
Housing should be housing, not hotel rooms. You should be able to rent out hotels and offer people accommodations, but people like me who are small investors in the city shouldn't be able to. That makes sense. People who are proponents, lobbyists. So if you're a pro Airbnb, you're a lobbyist, right? You can't just be a normal person. You tool for helping people stay in their homes. They supplement income, offset carrying costs, and allow for the agility that a leaseholding tenant wouldn't. They're also not subject to rigidities of Toronto's Residential Tenancy Act. See, so they're trying to frame it that they're not going to be subjected to the actual rule. Be a landlord without assuming the risk of a bad tenant and no timely recourse. As someone in real estate who not only has investment properties, but that deals with a lot of people that have investment properties, tenants do some awful things to them. And I've had it happen to my properties as well. My recourse is to try and go after that person in civil court. So let's say you have a tenant who stops paying rent. A tenant of mine destroyed my property, and I have to now try and take that tenant who zipped out and fled. They start causing damage, and then you have to try and evict them. You have to go through the entire eviction process. You then have to go to civil court. Meanwhile, you've got to remediate your property and get it back to where it was. All in this time, you need to now try and find another renter. You're out your past rent. You've incurred costs. You've incurred damages. and you have to try to seek it from this person. It's surprising that someone doesn't want to deal with bad tenants, and they may not just want to get into a space where they actually have a company to help back them when there's an issue, instead of a tenant board that just says, you know, I'm sorry your property was destroyed, but you're going to have to go through civil court to get that back. That is a lot more difficult as an investor to do than to call Airbnb and say, hey, we're in this together. This person did this. You have recourse and you have the powers to go after this person. So she had a friend that did it, and it helped with her mortgage, and another one who did it. Okay. And then so the next part of her article, she goes into how they were party pads, crazy places, and her neighbors must have hated her for it, as her friends, you know, did well in life. Why can't it be that those guys had it as a party pad, and that they are just normal, respectable human beings who go to the whatever event that they're going to, have fun, come home, and sleep? What hotels do you know that they're just crashing and destroying, and what's the recourse there? So it's okay if they're doing it at the hotel where there are other people sleeping? Like, what's your point? Punish bad people for doing bad things. The infill builder next to my property, who has caused me property damage, who has caused me nothing but headaches, has been far more of a nuisance of a neighbor than any of my Airbnb guests, who I've had zero complaints. And then let's end the article with this. Is it ideal to tell people what and how they need to handle their own properties? No. But since that's what our government is already doing, this is reasonable consideration with a strong upside. Hey guys, since the government's already screwing us over and they're already helping out corporations. Okay, a few things I want to dive deeper on in this. One of the few things I always see on different spaces, the complaints about Airbnb, and that is the cleaning fee's outrageous. Okay, well, if the cleaning fee's $300 for a place, but your average nightly is $150, you have a 4-bedroom property with 3 couples staying there who would otherwise have to get 3 different hotel rooms. What are they spending per night? What is their fees? What are their taxes? What are their hotel fees? One of the most common things I hear online and see online, people complaining about Airbnbs, are the cleaning, demands or whatever. That's not all Airbnbs. I know plenty of Airbnb owners that don't do that. Read the house rules, read their requirements, read the reviews, and if you don't like it, then stay somewhere else. You're not forced to stay at an Airbnb. It's framing Airbnbs as being a negative thing, as if it's this evil corporation as Airbnb. Airbnbs are normal people. Are everyday people who are, what percentage, Toronto Sun, of corporations own apartments and residential housing in Canada? Is that not a far more significant number than the 12,000 Airbnbs online right now? In Berlin, they're seizing all apartments from corporations. Why would someone not be more in favor of that than individual people running individual businesses? Here's what I would encourage the Toronto Sun to do next time they write an article. Approach an Airbnb owner and get some perspective. Don't just do an opinion piece. Here's some other positives that I'd love to hear the Toronto Sun address if we just stripped away Airbnbs. My property is located close to the hospitals, which means families who may need to be going and making visits to the hospitals have an opportunity to stay at a place where they can all be together, have grandmas, grandpas, other peoples come in, take care of kids, and be a family and be a unit in a private space. Predatory is collecting millions, tens of millions of dollars, or $400,000 a night for people to stay in COVID quarantine, like the Marriott Airport did. Compare the rates if you wanted to have multiple members of your family stay in a property. Go see what it would be to do that versus doing it in a hotel. The framing of this, that a hotel is magically just better than an Airbnb, is disingenuous at best. Although she did cover it in this article, because in this article she said, they're not cheaper. Fact. No data on that. They're not cheaper. Fact. Whereas once they were this new disruptor offering unique, affordable, convenient ways for families and friends to hit the road together. It's no longer that. Now you can't do that. And that's because these $350 cleaning fees, which are supporting local businesses, supporting other local people, our Airbnb manager. The products that she purchases tend to be from local suppliers. And we pay a landscaping company to take care of our property. People who stay at my Airbnb come from all around the world. Ukraine, Dubai are the next 2 people coming into my place. They're going to be immersed in the community there and getting to experience Canadians in a true way. A lot more truer than just being bunched together with other travelers, business travelers, etc. at a hotel. One of my favorite things when I travel is getting an Airbnb, so we're not just stuck in the touristy areas. We can immerse ourselves in the culture, in the places we're traveling. I would love to ask Bryn Lackey if when she travels, she always stays at the biggest, best hotels because that's what she deserves. What other things could we look at to address this? What other things would actually have a more immediate impact? And why is this journalist more focused on attacking the small Airbnb segment of owners instead of corporations? Why isn't there more focus on building more housing, building more affordable housing? Wouldn't it make more sense to start taxing hotels who have vacant properties that they're not using? Should we make hotels and motels have a percentage of their places be long-term rentals? Why not? Why isn't that being proposed and providing something different than what hotels are? If you can't see that Airbnbs offer something different than hotels, you don't understand the market. You don't understand the demand that's there. Not everybody wants to stay in a hotel. And there are many people who think staying in a home with their family is far more desirable. If you're in town for a conference and there's a hotel across the street from you, the hotel makes sense for you, absolutely. Maybe you're there for 1 week though and you want to bring your family and there's a house with a pool, a kitchen, etc. That might be a better option. Maybe you got to bring your pet. How hard is it to stay at a hotel with a pet? There's a lot of options with Airbnbs. Now, if you're traveling with a pet and you want to just eliminate the option across Canada for people to have places to stay, much your dog will bark if there's people just roaming around. Do you know how stressful that is to take them outside? Here's some options. Let's go to the places where there's the most of it, where there's abundance and corporate ownership. Let's go there. Tax vacant homes, build more housing, tax foreign ownership, tax vacant homes, ban foreign ownership, ban big corporate ownership, better incentives for first-time home buyers, and develop better zoning laws.